welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another spectacular edition of Highly Opinionated. I am Hamilton Mike Galetta, along with my partner in crime, as always, Brian the Ranger Tard. We are reviewing a lot of the draft coverage, and tonight it will be the New York Giants and the Cleveland Browns. Got a lot of information for you tonight. Two guest guys to come on for you. Well, not one. One is one guy you've seen before.
Part of the family.
Part of the family, right? Part of the Sports Block family. But first, Brian will tell you about a little bit of our sponsors.
Guys, welcome to the show tonight. Thank you for watching. If you were in the South Jersey area, I got two names for you to remember. Showcase Sports in Hamilton, New Jersey. All your athletic needs, give them a call and know that we sent you. In this hot real estate market, call Dave Berman at Remax Community. His number is on our page. Buy, sell, rent. Any information you need, Dave is your guy. And on a more local level, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the untimely passing of Jeremy Belan, who's been a longtime supporter, fan, and friend of the show. You may remember Jeremy specifically from a clip that we use or like to use semi-often.
War over there in Minnesota, guys. That's right. E-A-G-L-E-L, Eagles, baby.
So, unfortunately, he was in the mid-40s when he passed. Rest in peace, Jeremy. Sorry to see you go.
Yeah, we're going to miss you, J-Rock. Even though we had some fun razzing each other back and forth in the shows and stuff.
Yes, I will have, with all due respect to Jeremy, I'll have a lot more free time not correcting his grammar. And he knows that, too. We joked around about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we joked around with Jeremy, but Jeremy knows we liked him, loved him watching the show, and, we've interacted with him off set and stuff like that. So, we're going to miss you, J-Rock. Rest in peace, pal.
Yeah.
So we move on to the show, and we'll dedicate it to J-Rock because I know he would love to talk football.
Well, listen. So first and foremost, I just have to discuss this because this drives me nuts. So the Las Vegas Raiders, in their infinite wisdom, are opening up Wynn Field Club behind one of the end zones in Allegiant Stadium. There's going to be 2 DJ booths, premium bottle service, TVs, a big LED screen, a big sound system. It's basically going to be a nightclub on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. This is the dumbest thing. I don't care that you're in Las Vegas. I go to sporting events. Maybe I'm out of touch. I'm 37 now, right? I go to sporting events to actually watch sports. Not to have bottle service, not to listen to some DJ play shitty music, whatever. It is so stupid to me. They're going to make money. I'm not disputing any of that. But this is stupid. This is dumb. I can't wrap my head around it.
See, I'm glad we're bringing this up tonight because I'm on the other end of the spectrum in this. I think it's good marketing. I mean, listen, I was a DJ back in the day. I did techno. I did all that stuff back in the day for clubs and stuff like that. So maybe I'm biased by it a little bit, but listen, they're trying to make money on something. It's a different idea. I mean, listen, when Arizona came out with the swimming pool out in left field, people probably said the same thing. Like, what the hell are you going to swim out in left field and watch a baseball game? It's just another intuitive thing to bring up that they'll bring people in. It'll be a nuance. People will do it. They'll have a good time. They'll party out there. Some people won't even watch the game. They'll just go to party just to be a part of the experience. And that's funny. They're capitalizing on that side of maybe entertainment value, just like kind of like the Super Bowl with grabbing fans that don't watch Super Bowl to just go to have a party. So it's the same concept.
You know what Vegas needs, Mike? Another club.
Well, Vegas needs a good team, number one. Number two is the club thing. Like I said, it's going to be different. It's going to be new. I'm going to give it a chance, see what happens. I mean, I think it's going to be big for them because people aren't going to go there just going to go party with the they're going to watch the game. They're just going to go there just to say they were there at the stadium and did the club thing. I mean, I don't think it's a horrible idea yet, at least. So,
DUMB dumb.
Okay.
I can't.
Why we have opinions? We're on both sides.
I have an opinion. It's the name of the show.
Yeah.
So we're starting our series of team-by-team recaps of the 2021 NFL Draft. We love talking football on the show. Bringing on a member of the Sports Box family, Alex Croghan from Wednesday night's game-winning drive, talking Cleveland Browns. Alex, I see you all brownied up. So obviously,
Alex, did you get
you're in a good-
taller?
No, I just
Okay.
sat up.
I'm just checking. I
I
didn't
just
know.
sat in my seat. Just sat up in my seat.
Gotcha.
So you did a lot of the draft coverage with us. So I think I know some of your thoughts about how things went. But for those who missed our phenomenal draft coverage, as we went through all nights of the draft, which was very exhausting, frankly. So, first and foremost, they stuck with the 26th pick in the draft. They did not move. They ended up with Greg Newsome, the cornerback out of Northwestern. And if I recall correctly, during the coverage, this was not a pick that you were overly enthused with. I think that you felt it wasn't a need, or I don't know if you felt it was a need, but didn't specifically like that player. He look, 6 foot, 192 pounds, 4.38 speed. So he definitely has the ability to stay with receivers. I had him as the 3rd ranked corner on my board behind Surtain and Horn. So I was a fan of the pick. Where were you on the?
I wasn't a fan of the pick with JOK sitting there at 26, and I had no clue that we would be able to get him in the 2nd round. Now, hindsight 2020, obviously, we got the 3rd best corner on the board. We got a burner. We got a guy that if Denzel Ward happens to get nicked up again this year, I feel like he can shift over to the corner 1 spot, and we're good. I felt like our secondary was severely nicked last year, but I don't expect people to tear their Achilles and their ACLs again this year. We're getting 3 guys back. We added 2 guys in the offseason. We heavily invested into our secondary. And now, yet again, we're investing another pick, a high draft pick, 1st-round pick, into our secondary when our linebacking core was, I think, 18th ranked in the league last year. I mean, that. If you look, our defensive line, right, was ranked top 10. Our secondary was in the bottom 20s, but we had 3 guys out, and we just added probably 2 of the better free agents in the offseason for the secondary. We added the number 1 safety, that's for sure. And then we added like the 4th or 5th best corner in the free agency market, and he's going to play nickel anyway. So I just don't know where Newsome's going to have a spot right away. I hope he starts. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he's, our other side, and he locks down the same way that Denzel Ward does on the other side, and then we're good. Like, it's a great pick. I'm not as upset with it now as I was the night of, because I didn't think there was a chance in hell we'd get JOK in the 2nd round.
Yeah. So, Alex, I'm going to stay with the defense for you. So, you got the Cleveland Browns with one of the premier defensive ends in the league in Myles Garrett, who's just rock solid and just scares the living daylights out of quarterbacks. Now you bring in a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, Jadeveon, excuse me, to get on the other side as bookends. Do you think he's going to be the Clowney of old, or are you a little concerned about the last couple of years that he's played with some of the stuff going on with him?
I just need 6 sacks out of Clowney. That's the magic number for me. Anything above 6 sacks, I'm more than happy with. I don't think you're going to get the Clowney of J.J. Watt in his prime where he's pushing 9-10 sacks. I don't think we'll ever get to that point again. I don't think he's that player. I don't think there was as much of a market because he wants more than he's worth. And I think that's why it took as long for the Browns to sign him, because they weren't worried about it, right? They didn't want to overpay for him, so they waited. Mm-hmm. And then he finally realized the market is not what it is for a guy that missed half of last year. And the last time he was on the field, I think he had 4 sacks. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money to pay a guy, or the money he wanted, for only 4 sacks. It's not enough production. Now, do I think he could have an 8 or 9 sack season because he's on the other side of Myles Garrett? Absolutely. Because our secondary's improved, our linebacking core's improved. So there's going to be more time to pressure the quarterback. So I think he will have an improved season as long as he stays healthy. But that's the key with this guy is, can he stay healthy? Can he not get little nicks and bruises and be out? You know what I mean? Because money is what's important to him. I mean, I think he's proven that in his career. He wants the most money he can get, which I don't blame him, right? But there's a time and point where you're either playing for legacy or for money, and it feels like he's playing for money.
You mentioned the defense, and I'm going to stay there with the second round. So they traded up. They saw an opportunity. They traded 59 and 89 to Carolina for 52 and 113, and they went up and got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker out of Notre Dame. This is one of my favorite picks of the draft because, like you said, this was a name that you targeted at 26.
Yep.
And he fell. There was news came out after the fact. There was like a heart issue that was discovered, I guess, in his physical, but the doctors did clear him. But you understand why teams necessarily don't want to put their first round pick into, a guy with a health risk. But boy, from a value perspective, again, I'm perfectly fine with them making that trade. I mean, this was a guy who they absolutely, if Newsome wasn't there, wouldn't have shocked me if they went him at 26.
Right.
To get a guy, of his caliber at that point, I thought was a major coup for the team. And I know, having been doing the show with you at the time, that you were absolutely thrilled. Look at that beast right there. You were thrilled that they went this direction, and you can't be upset at all with the value.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a guy that, yes, is he slight in frame? He's not a typical 4'3" linebacker who's 6'4", 240, 250 pounds, right? But he's that hybrid like Isaiah Simmons, who I loved coming out last year out of Clemson. I thought he went to the perfect place going to the Cardinals. I thought he was going to be competing for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He let me down in his production, but I think it's one of those guys that you don't know if you're going to put him at linebacker or safety. Now, clearly for us, he's going to play linebacker, right? Our safety room is set. We don't have any issues there. We're not worried about that anymore. But I think he's another guy that's going to provide an edge rush. He also is quick enough to provide a lot of coverage ability as a linebacker, which we employ a lot in our schemes. I think you'll probably see him closer to 240 playing weight once he's in there in our program, and he understands that he's got to fatten up a little bit. He might put on a little baby weight, as we call it, right, the first year, just to get used to that size, and then it'll turn into muscle as he goes forward, because obviously you can see he's in great shape. He's a physical specimen, right? So I'm very excited with this. I thought this was a great trade. I didn't think you could pass up on the value with the need that we had where he was at. Like I said, I would have been ecstatic to get him at 26. So the fact that, I got him at 52 is amazing to me. I'm more than happy, and it kind of lets me know that Barry had a plan going into this, and it fell the way he wanted it to, and Newsome was the right pick in the first round, even though I didn't like it. But there's a reason why he's the GM of the team and making a lot of money, and I'm sitting here talking with you guys. So, I mean, he clearly knows what he's doing. It's a more valuable position for him. Corner is a very valuable position in his eyes. He has a scheme of, value per position where he goes down that list. And so Newsome was there for the taking, and it was a great pick, even though I wasn't ecstatic about it at 26. And this is an even better pick, I feel like.
I think if you flip them, you probably don't care.
I would have never complained. You would have never heard a word out of me. I'd have been happy as hell.
So, Alice, let's go over to the opposite side of the ball. The last couple of years, there's always been a thing about Baker Mayfield, and is he progressing? Is he doing well? I think last year he proved he's getting more comfortable, and I think he's he's going to be better and better moving forward. At least I believe that. I want to believe that. So it's kind of a two-part question. Do you believe again that Baker Mayfield is the guy for Cleveland moving forward in the years to come? And did they do enough in the offseason for him? Maybe not getting another wide receiver or getting another kind of different guy for him besides, keeping Landry and Peoples-Jones. Do you think there's anything else they could have did for him on offense?
Yeah. So I wasn't a huge Baker fan coming in. Some of that has to do with the Ohio State stuff where, planting the flag and the cockiness and the brashness, right? Some of that has to do with he's not a prototypical guy. Some of that has to do with he was a walk-on 2 times for a reason. He also won the job 2 times for a reason. So I give a lot of credit to him. Is he the guy? Yes, I think so for Cleveland. Now, does that mean we win a Super Bowl with him? I don't know. But the way he's embraced the city, the way he's a hardworking blue collar guy, down to earth for the most part, from what I'm hearing. Right? He's working. He's out working everybody, and that's why he's where he is now. The improvement comes from not having Freddie Kitchen, who was a YMCA coach, coaching him, not having a turnover in the fourth year now coming in. Right? He has the same system. The same head coach who I really like, who has a great system. And we don't need any more weapons. I mean, we go 3 tight end deep. We go 2 running back deep. We go 4 wide receiver deep. We have the number 1 rated offensive line in all of NFL. What more could he want? I mean, I don't think he needs more help. The defensive side of the ball is what held us back last year. All the injuries in that secondary killed us. It was very apparent if you watched the Ravens game when Lamar Jackson scrambled, you knew he was scrambling to throw the ball, and of course Hollywood Brown sitting wide open. We broke off coverage, and why was it? Sendejo wasn't where he was supposed to be, and that's what you heard time and time again. So I don't know how Sendejo still has a job in the NFL. If you watch his tape, the guy consistently makes the wrong play. So I'm happy. I'm not going to rely on that guy anymore. I'm happy that we've brought in the secondary help that we need. I mean, we'll talk more. I really like Schwartz, though. I mean, I think he's going to add a dimension, not just with kick returning and punt returning, right? I also think he's going to add a dimension to where he can take a slant 85 yards for a touchdown. He's a true burner. The guy is, I don't know if he was the fastest wide receiver, but he was top 2 or 3. I mean, he is a burner. So I think I really like him. I'm also interested to see, now that OBJ knows, we don't need him to be successful. Does he come back with a hunger and a passion to prove that he's still a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL? And if he does do that, and it's not a me thing, right? It's a we thing. I think the sky is the limit. I think we have a 3-year window where we can really compete for a Super Bowl. Whether we win one or not, I'm a Browns fan. I'll be realistic, probably not. But at least we're in the conversation. We're in the top 5, top 6 teams in the NFL now. If you look at talent-wise at every position, you can't argue that. We have one of the best rosters in the NFL. So we should be competing. We have the right head coach. I feel like we have the right GM. If we could get a new owner tomorrow, that'd be great. But other than that, I mean, all the pieces are in place. So I'm excited. I think we have a bright future coming.
You brought up Schwartz, and I'm looking at the 40 times in my top 60 receivers, and that is the fastest. I mean, the guy ran a 4.25, which is very, very fast. And you're right, that is an element they didn't really have. So now you have your possession guy who's going to be able to catch the just volume in a guy like Landry. If Odell's your number 1 or if he plays that role, that's fine. This is a guy who's going to open up the field, in vertically, because you have to account for him. And I think that's going to open up a lot, in the middle there. And I think for a team with the tight end depth that they have, that's really interesting, because now if you can draw that secondary further out, you're going to have a lot more opening in the middle. And maybe, Baker's doesn't have to, you got to air it out once or twice to keep the defense honest. But now things should open up across the middle. And but between Harris and Bryant, everybody else that they have, it's a lot of talent. I think they have 3 tight ends, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Njoku.
So, right.
Bryant
and what's his name went there? The guy from Atlanta. I can't think of
it. And overpay. Oh,
yeah,
man,
he was definitely overpaying. Ton of money. I think that's going to be a very interesting part of their game, and even that should also open up the running game further, because again, drawing the defense back.
You got to really pick your poison going into this year playing defense against us. Are you going to stack the box against the run, or are we going to spread you out? And now we have the option with 4 legit wide receivers to run spread. So if we spread you out, Chubb's good enough to run single back and still gash you for 7, 8, or break one for a touchdown. So, I mean, you really got. I think it's going to be a huge year for us. I think it's going to be another step forward in the right direction. I'm excited to see what our defense does if we can stay fully healthy. I think it's going to be good.
So you look at Cleveland last year, what they did. They had a good year, all things considered. What do you think they can do, or what? I'll make it even simpler. What area of the field do you think is going to improve that much to move the needle forward from last year to this year?
Secondary, 100%. I think the fact that we're not going to be playing second and third string guys in our secondary. I think we were 24, 25 last year in secondary, right? If we can just get top 15, we win that game against Kansas City. Even with the blown call, we win that game against Kansas City. So, I mean, there's so many factors. I mean, we're about to talk about, 2 picks from now, but that's my favorite guy in the draft. I mean, I was ecstatic that we got Tommy Tungai out of Ohio State. He was
how you pronounce
guy,
that? I had no idea when I was typing.
I was ecstatic that we got. I mean, I watched this kid play every game at Ohio State, right? I mean, every Saturday I was watching this kid. He's a difference maker, right? He has the athletic talent. I mean, he is a tremendous athlete. I mean, he literally has the chance to be the steal in this draft if he lives up to his potential. And how could he not with Clowney on one side and Garrett on the other? I mean, they're going to be getting double teamed all the time. He's going to be a run stuffer, and he's probably going to have 4 sacks this year. I mean, we're going to do a rotation, of course, but I think he's that big of an impact. By the end of the year, he'll be the solidified guy, one of the guys in the middle. He'll have solidified his position. He was, to me, honestly, he was the most exciting pick for me. Obviously, the first or second round, I mean, those are big picks, but those are guys you expect to get in those positions to a degree. Him, I didn't think he would last to the 4th round, so I was really excited about that.
Yeah, I have the rest of their draft up here, and you look at some of the positions, again, they did a very nice job, I thought, of filling the needs that they had. You needed a defensive lineman, there's Tommy right there. You needed a cornerback, you obviously nailed that in round 1. The linebacker, for sure, you nailed in round 2. Offensive line, they did address that with Hudson out of Cincy in round 4, and they added a safety out of Georgia in round 5, and even another receiver in Demetric Felton out of UCLA, again, another big name school. So, overall, I was a really big fan of their draft. And I think universally they were among the teams that, mock drafters and the pundits said had a very good weekend. All in all, looking back on it, grade it, give me your satisfaction rating, and how more excited are you for next season given the class that they put together?
So yeah, I gave him an A. I mean, I wanted to say A+, but I think A+ was more of homer than realistic, right? To me, they were the second best class in the draft, and unfortunately, the best draft grade I had was the Ravens in my same division. So that hurts me, right? It hurts my soul because I was excited to see all these guys leave this year out of the Ravens stable, and then they just replenish them. I mean, we don't talk about how good of a drafting organization the Ravens are enough, I think. I mean, Bill Belichick gets all the credit in the world because he got Brady, but I don't know if that was really Bill Belichick, right? I mean, the Ravens consistently get the best guy at the right time every time, it seems like. They don't miss on draft picks. So, I mean, look, they replaced their left tackle with a guy that they just got a haul for who became a Pro Bowler. Like, I mean, nobody saw that coming, right? And they just got a bunch of picks for him, which they replenished and got a bunch of other guys, right? And then they signed Villanueva right after the draft, right, to replace that need for a year or two. And then they'll draft another left tackle, and he'll probably be a Pro Bowl guy, right? So overall, I'm very excited. I think the draft class is probably, if not the best, it's very close to the best just on paper that we've had with this new regime, right? We'll see how it pans out, right? Maybe, busts happen, unfortunately, right? But I don't see any busts in the first 4 picks, right? The left tackle we got, we're not talking about him. He's probably going to get converted to guard. He'll probably get some spot play this year, in positions where injury or whatever. But it's a nice luxury to have, to be able to draft a guy that you're going to sit. You're basically going to redshirt him for a year, and you could take him in the 3rd round. I mean, that's nice, like you have that luxury of that much talent. I'm very excited. I think I think everybody except for maybe Fields. I wasn't ecstatic about the Fields pick, right? Because he's kind of JOK all over again. They're the same build, same weight, kind of same player. He's a little undersized linebacker. I'd have liked a more traditional linebacker, but I think probably everybody but him is pretty much going to make the roster 100%. And maybe Felton doesn't make it. Maybe he does. It just depends on where they put him at. Some people put him as a running back. Some people put him as a wide receiver. So we'll see where he grades out. I mean, because we're getting to a point where they're going to have to pay Chubb. And I don't want to pay Chubb. I'm not trying. Like I told you, I would have loved to take a Sermon in the 5th round and replace Chubb next year and let somebody else pay him a crap ton of money or do a sign-in trade or something, something to that effect, right? Like I don't want to pay him the type of money he deserves 100%. I just don't want it on my roster. It's just not a winning formula. I think we've seen that. You've seen it with your Cowboys. We saw it with the Rams. I mean, everywhere you go, if you mark down where the running back's either your highest or your second highest paid player on your roster, it hurts your franchise. It just does. So yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. I think, it's between us and the Ravens this year. I really think we're going to win the division. It'll be really nice to have a home game in Cleveland, especially now. Especially now the military has released a lot of the restrictions on us. So now I can travel and I can do stuff. So I'm excited for football season to get here as fast as can be. So
yeah. So Alex, we want to thank you for coming on and talking Browns with us. It's always a pleasure. Now that I have 2 Super Bowls, talking to somebody a little bit under me, but that's fine.
Oh, here we go.
Listen, you won't get a lot of it from me at all because I know what it's like, man. Been through the heartaches and the 0-14 seasons and the Eric Rhett years and just the misery of the Bucs. So I know what you're going through, man.
Yeah.
I wish Cleveland all the best, and you deserve a Super Bowl for all the fandom you have. So,
appreciate it, man.
And again, Alex is one of our 4 hosts on Game Winning Drive Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Sports Box, going to wall-to-wall football coverage. So make sure that you make yourself have Siri remind you 9 p.m. tomorrow. Check the boys out. They'll be doing some draft recap as well, and I'll be watching so I can put my schneid comments in whenever Brant says something I don't like. So
thank you, Alex.
All right, guys, appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
We go from the Browns to another very interesting draft, and that was the New York Giants. And we bring on Tom Scavetta from Review and Preview, one of our friends who do phenomenal work. Very happy to have you on, Tom. How the hell are you tonight?
What's up, Tom?
Mike, Brian, it's been a while. I really appreciate you guys having me on. We talked before the draft. Now we're talking after the draft. So it should be a lot of fun to kind of dissect this and break this down. So really looking forward to it. Thank you guys again.
150%. And before we get started, obviously, as I mentioned, you're one of our podcast friends out there doing wonderful work all over social media. Let the people know where they can find you so they can put a like on your page and start following your shows as well.
Absolutely. So you can like our page at Review and Preview Sports on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram at Review and Preview, Twitter as well, and our YouTube channel, which is at Review and Preview Sports. So up and coming young YouTube channel. So again, thanks for letting me plug that. And just got off a show like 5-10 minutes ago with three man. We literally 8:50 got off and ran to jump on here. So again, you guys are doing awesome stuff at the Sports Box though. So make sure to go check these guys out.
I always roll the red carpet out for Ranger fans. So there's always you get that VIP treatment, kind of like that club they're opening up in Vegas. That's the bottle service basically, when you come on the Sports Box. So I know that you couldn't have been overly thrilled at the moment, and you were probably cursing me out when the Cowboys decided to trade down with, of all teams, the Eagles, allowing the Eagles to jump ahead of the Giants to go take Smith from Alabama. That left the Giants in a bit of a conundrum because you and I had talked about this. I personally did not think they were going to go receiver in the draft simply because there's one football. They had just put a bunch of money into the position, Kenny Golladay, and they still had Henry. They still had other guys. But lo and behold, that clearly was the plan the whole time, because as soon as the Eagles jumped up and took Devontae Smith, the Giants found a trade partner and traded down, which Gettleman never does. But he did a couple of times in this draft and made a huge deal with the Bears, sending 11 to Chicago for 20, 164, a first and a fourth next year. And then with that trade down, so I guess it's going to be a two-part question for you. They went ahead and took Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver out of Florida, who was actually one of the favorites of Ryan Havermill, one of the Packer fans. He was very upset that he went this early. So two-part question. Number one, your thoughts on an uncharacteristic trade that the Giants did to move down from 11 to 20, add a first-round pick next year when there's a lot more certainty about the draft, and then B, putting in 20 into Kadarius Toney, the Florida receiver.
So I think trading down was the right move, especially after Devontae Smith was off the board, because at that point, I don't think they wanted Parsons. I really don't. And the edge rusher value wasn't there at number 11, which is kind of what all Giants fans were thinking at that time. They were starting to think, oh, we're trading down to get an edge rusher. Well, that wasn't the case. As far as the pick goes, I'm not mad at the Giants for making this pick. I was definitely surprised. Almost all Giants content creators that I know were very, very surprised. And yes, Hank, that was a trade out of left field. But Kadarius Toney, they graded him as a first-round talent. You just mentioned the Packers were interested in him. Urban Meyer was heartbroken they couldn't take him at 25. People were telling me this was a reach. This wasn't a reach because he was highly valued at this position. The only true reach of the first round, in my opinion, was Alex Leatherwood at 17, right? So as far as Kadarius Toney, I think he fits the scheme better than a guy like Rashad Bateman, a guy who, Giants want another wide receiver. And what that does is, look, Kenny Golladay has an injury track record, Sterling Shepard, concussion track record. You just brought in Evan Ingram and Kyle Rudolph, John Ross, again, injury-prone player. Darius Slayton's another guy. Now, the Giants needed a slot receiver, right? There's this common misconception from Giants fans that, oh, Sterling Shepard's a slot receiver. That's not what he is. His better numbers come in the Z spot, right? Now, you bring in Kadarius Toney to play the slot, and I think the way Jason Garrett runs his offenses, they're going to start going more vertical where Kadarius Toney can be used in trick plays. And by the way, Giants last year were one of the worst teams in the National Football League. In fact, they were last in yards after the catch. Kadarius Toney's the best yards after catch receiver in this draft. I think he fills that void quite nicely, and I personally love the pick. His 40-yard dash, his 3-cone, very similar numbers, and yeah, he was Kyle Trask's number 2 option behind Kyle Pitts, so you can't be too mad about that.
What I like about him is, very, very similar in size, to Jamar Chase. Again, similar speed, similar everything, similar build. Now, I'm not comparing the two from a pure talent perspective. Obviously, Chase, went 5th overall. Right. But all things considered, given the number 1 guy was off the board, to trade down, add a 1 next year, and still probably get the guy they would have wanted, only because I think they had their hearts set on taking a receiver in the first round, and they made that happen while adding a 1 next year. And if the Bears stink, it's going to be a very nice one, and they might stink. So, I was a huge fan of it. I thought it was a great, great move by them.
Yeah. I think trading, we're talking about trading back for next year, getting those 2 first-round picks. Look, we traded one of those picks away later. I think the 5th rounder we got from Chicago, we traded the next day to move up in round 3. But I think overall it's a score, right? I think Dave Gettleman really aced that move because at that point, you didn't have the traditional combine, right? You just had a pro day, really, to base things off of and film and tape. And Giants missed that guy who can push the safety back. I think Kadarius Toney could do that. He's very quick as well. But, as far as trading back and getting that additional draft capital, it's Dave Gettleman's invested into the future of this football team. You know, he's planning to stay as the GM, and you can't really complain about this pick where missing out on Devontae Smith turned out to be a silver lining for the Giants. I personally think that this was a win. Now, it's not the pick that I expected. People were thinking Kadarius Toney would go in the second round. Apparently, he had first-round value from several different teams in the NFL. So, look, I think next year the Giants, those 2 first-round picks, if Daniel Jones is not the answer, which the 3 of us have spoken about this once before, I think he is. You can use one of those first-round picks to trade up to get a quarterback if the Bears are better than expected, or if the Giants are good but they don't like Jones, you could always trade up next year in that quarterback class. Now, I'm not too fond of that quarterback class, but that's where I kind of am with the trade. I think the trade is good. Again, drafts are won in rounds 2 through 7 every single year. We see that, and the Giants, I think, have accumulated a nice amount of draft value.
Yeah, I had Toney as 4th receiver behind Smith on my board. So, I mean, they got the guy, I thought. Sam Cardona says silver lining is Devontae Smith has to line up against James Bradbury twice a year. She's excited to see that matchup. And Dan Bakley, extra picks will improve your team and still got a receiver that could help. At the end of the day, the Eagles moved up for one, Giants moved back. So the value, I thought, was tremendous.
So I'm going to go on the other side of it, Tom. So you talk about that pick, the receiver. I was kind of a little shocked by it. I mean, it's not a bad pick. I like Toney. He's a good receiver. I think he's going to do some things there. But you talk about Brian first when he said about bringing Kenny Galladay in. You already have Slayton there. You have Shepard. You have a receiving core form. Evan Ingram coming back. You have Saquon this year. I mean, the weapons are there for the quarterback that they so want to succeed. They don't want to make this pick look bad. I thought they were going to go more offensive line to protect Jones and give him some time back there to, I think, read maybe a little bit more defenses, and he has the weapons there. Would you have been more shocked if they would have taken an offensive lineman there, or you're kind of happy with the receiver and with the slot guy and just go with it?
You bring up a really good point. I actually would have been surprised if they took a lineman there, because the best lineman on the board at that time was Tevin Jenkins. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but throughout the night, at least to me, it seemed like the linemen weren't being taken as soon as advertised, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sewell didn't go till 7. Rashawn Slater didn't go till 13. I don't even think Tevin Jenkins wasn't even a first rounder. Right?
There's only 4 or 5 guys, offensive linemen, taken in the first round.
Right, and the Giants don't need a tackle. They need a guard. I think if anything, Elijah Vera Tucker would have been the pick, right? Interior offensive lineman who the Jets traded up for. I just don't know if the guard value was there in round 1. I think I was more surprised we didn't go line on day 2, but I definitely see your point. You want to protect Daniel Jones. You want to give him more time. At the same time, I think you want to develop a good amount of continuity. And I think Dave Gettleman, they focused on the line a lot early on in last year's draft. If they did that again, I just think it might have looked bad on Gettleman. I think he kind of wants to roll the dice with the offensive line. And the last thing I'll mention on that is that you look at some of these guys, our Super Bowl offensive line from years back. David Deal was a 5th-round pick. Kevin Booth was a 6th-round pick. Sean O'Hara and Rich Seibert were both undrafted free agents. Kareem McKenzie we brought in from the Jets. The only lineman that was a high draft pick for us was Chris Snee, who was taken in the 2nd round, a guard, where I think good guards are usually found in the 2nd and 3rd rounds historically. But, yeah, I see what you're saying. Zeitler, former 1st-rounder, you want to replace that early on, and they didn't do it. So I see both sides to the argument there. They definitely could have went line.
In the 2nd round, one of my favorite picks of the draft, I'm going to tell you why. They trade down with Miami to get 50 and a 2022 third. And then they take Azeez Ojulari, the defensive end out of Georgia. And here's why this is one of my favorite picks. So I had him as a mid-1st round guy. In fact, I had him higher on my board than Kadarius Toney. So if you decide to flip these two, and you told me you took Ojulari in the 1st round, and then you came back with Toney in the 2nd, everybody's happy. Nobody's saying then that Toney was a reach if you want to go that direction. Whereas the value for Ojulari I thought was absolutely fantastic. Again, I had him as the top edge rusher coming on my board. He was out of Georgia, 16th. I mean, like above even where they took Tony. So I loved this. At this point in the draft, like I'm not anti-Giants. I'm anti-Eagles. I hate them. But I'm not anti. It's fine. I was a huge fan of what they were doing. Uncharacteristic of Gettleman to trade down again, get more value. How about the moxie to go down and still get the guy that you want? Like in the first round, I get it because you're not that you're settling for Tony, but it wasn't your target. This feels like he knew it was going to be there. And I thought this was an absolutely phenomenal pick. One of my favorite picks of round 2 and a really, really good job by Gettleman to do that.
This was a great job by Gettleman. Here's the only counter argument to that. And I don't even agree with this counter argument. This is what the media was saying. The Giants were interested in Liam Eichenberg at 42, and that's where he went to the Miami Dolphins. Eichenberg, tackle at Notre Dame, has short arms. Yeah, you could have moved him into guard, but I was totally okay with taking Ojulari at 50. That was actually my favorite pick of the draft because you would have taken him at 42. You got him 8 spots lower. Well, why did he drop to 50? Because, again, the injury is a big concern. He tore his ACL in high school, but he played 3-4 years at Georgia with that injury fine. I mean, he had to redshirt 1 year, but he was fine the next 3 years. I mean, this guy led the SEC in sacks, tackles for loss, and forced fumbles. He has ties to this coaching staff. He fills a need. He's a home run pick with a first-round evaluation. Again, he's 6'2", 250, strip sack type of guy, reminds you of somebody, Osi Umenyiora. He never missed the game in his 3 years at Georgia. So this whole injury thing that made him fall, I don't know if they're concerned about like the cartilage in his knee or potential arthritis in his knee. I think maybe that's what dipped him this far. But you look what he did against Cincinnati in the bowl game, guys. 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Not to mention, he's a former roommate of Andrew Thomas, who actually was at his house when the Giants picked him. I wonder if that had something to do with it. Now, he's also former teammates with Lorenzo Carter, who is entering his contract year. Both of our top edge rushers were hurt last year. We lost Kyler Fackrell. Ojulari's going to come in, and to get a third-round pick next year on top of it, it's absolutely insane for the Giants. And this was my favorite pick of the draft. I like this more than Kadarius Toney. Job well done. I mean, the edge rusher talent was there in round 2, right? The edge, you saw a run on edge rushers late first round. The last 4 out of 5 picks were edge rushers. I mean, Mike's Bucks got one at pick number 32. So, I mean, go Giants.
Similar to what we said about Cleveland earlier in the show, if you flip the 1 and the 2, nobody even bats an eye. I wouldn't.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No. It's a really good pick.
Yeah. So Tommy, you look at the defensive side of the ball for the Giants and the secondary. I would say is okay. I wouldn't say they're top 5 in the league, but they're good secondary. Do you think the addition of Aaron Robinson, I know he's a rookie and everything, but do you think that kind of helps this secondary a little bit in the next year or two, or is that going to be something that's going to be a project?
So I think it does. Now, he actually played at Bama in 2017 and then transferred to UCF. He had a second-round grade by almost any draft site that you look at. And, again, this was a second-round talent. Again, the Giants could have went line here, but they went best player available. As far as the secondary goes, I think he's going to go in and compete with Darnay Holmes for a slot corner spot. I'm going to take a little different approach than what you just took. I think they're already a top 10 secondary. I think they have top 5 secondary potential. I don't necessarily think they're there, but I think the more the unit plays together, they're going to be very scary because we took McKinney in the second round last year, who was a first-round talent. He's going to be healthy. You have Jabril Peppers and Logan Ryan. You have 3 safeties. You have Darnay Holmes, who didn't give up a touchdown all year, in addition to James Bradbury and Adoree Jackson, who he just signed and gave the bank to, in addition to this Aaron Robinson guy who had 3 picks in 2019. He's a very hard tackler. 6 passes defended this year. Also, he had a great rep against Kadarius Toney in the Senior Bowl, who, we took with our first-round pick. My one concern about Robinson, guys, is he takes chances, right? All corners take chances once in a while, but I think Robinson takes chances a little too much. I think at the next level, he has to improve at that. I think he's a nice package player who fits the bill for press man-to-man coverage. This pick tells me that the Giants are going to switch Patrick Graham's defensive scheme. They're going to use more man-to-man coverage this year rather than zone, which they ran a lot last year. The Eagles were mad at the Giants for jumping in front of them. Apparently, this was their guy, so I'm kind of glad we got back at them a little bit. We brought up anti-Eagles before, but Aaron Robinson's a good pick. I would have preferred a lineman, but at the end of the day, the value didn't meet.
I like using that one.
But I like Aaron Robinson. I do. I think it's a good pick.
It was fascinating to watch it on TV. But first of all, they could only blame themselves. They decided to trade down from 70 anyway. Like, they're the smartest guys in the room. And they say, oh, we wanted to leave McNeil to D-tackle at NC State. Well, of course you're going to say that now because your divisional rival took somebody that you maybe had your eye on, and the whole missed fist bump thing was hysterical. I mean, just great television. Again, to this point, in the draft, I think they're doing a hell of a job. I had Robinson going at about 60 or so. So to get him here was fine. I was a fan of them moving up. Again, they saw an opportunity. This was a pick they got essentially for free from the deal earlier in the draft. So, this was a need too. I mean, you're in a division, with a team like the Cowboys who throws the ball all the time. The Washington keeps adding receivers. At some point, the Eagles might throw the ball. Maybe not. We're going to find out. So you keep adding to that. I thought it was a great pick, and I was a fan of them moving up. They had the draft capital to do it. You can't walk out of these drafts with like 10 players in a 53-man roster unless you suck. Like, you're going to be replacing everybody. Like, I don't think that the Giants were really there. Day 3. A couple more picks, defensive end, another Gary Brentwood, the running back out of Arizona, another corner, Williams out of Oklahoma State. Was there anybody here that stood out to you for any reason in what they did on day 3?
So one of my buddies actually interviewed Rodarius Williams last week. He is 25, but the pick that sticks out most to me is Ellerson Smith because I wasn't expecting this. This was one of the head shakers to me. Like, really, like, it's the first pick of day 3. You're not taking a lineman. But remember something. There was a big run on interior offensive linemen the end of night 2. I remember you guys were live at like 11 o'clock at night. I'm watching you guys live here on the Sports Box as these linemen are going. Quinn Miners went. Ben Cleveland went, right? Where the Giants were picking at 76. You're asking, why didn't they take an interior lineman? Why did they move up to 71? These interior linemen weren't going till like the late 80s, early to mid 90s. So I think the Giants did the right thing with that 3rd round pick. And Ellerson Smith, clearly a BPA pick, right? He didn't play last year, but he had 14 sacks the year before. Now, you question the level of competition playing in the FCS, right? Who postponed their season. But this guy's 6'6", right? 6'7" with shoes. I mean, everyone's taller with shoes on, but 41-inch vertical. He's a pass rush specialist. I really like him a lot. Originally, I was like, what the heck? But now the more I look into him, he's my favorite pick from this day. Did not like the Brightwell pick. This was a pure special teams Joe Judge pick. That's the one pick I will come out and say I did not like as a Giants fan. I know the Pac-12 only played 5 games, but okay, bring him in as a running back 3. I would have preferred Jarrett Patterson there, but he went undrafted. Maybe there's a reason why. Rodarius Williams, this is another corner, high upside type of pick. This is a passing league now. You got to have a lot of corners. That's just how it is. I mean, look at all the receivers in the NFC East you just said. I mean, this guy had 48 straight starts for Oklahoma State, falling to the 6th round, a guy who was predicted to potentially go late 4th, early 5th. He didn't do that. So I like what the Giants did. Ellerson Smith is definitely my favorite day 3 pick. So, yeah.
Sorry. I lost my chain of thought here. So with Tom, with the Giants last year to this year, and I think definitely they had a good draft this year. I don't know what you're going to give them in the way of a draft grade, but I think they had a good draft. Like Brian hit on, they drafted the guy at number 2 they wanted.
Yeah.
They had good value there, things to that effect. Where do you think the Giants, would you say, going into this year are going to be deficient? I'm not going to say they're going to be terrible at it, but where do you think they lack a little bit compared to last year?
Well, a lot of people are saying we retained a lot of this roster from last year, but there's two huge players that we lost. That's Kevin Zeitler and Dalvin Tomlinson. I think you do the math right there. You replace Dalvin Tomlinson with Danny Shelton and Austin Johnson. You have B.J. Hill. You can move in inside. I'm okay with that. I don't think that's the biggest weakness because who you have at the 3 tech with Leonard Williams, and you have Dexter Lawrence, who's a former first-round pick, the guard position, right? The interior offensive lineman. Shane Lemieux gave up the most sacks on the team last year at the interior lineman position. I mean, Will Hernandez, he started 7 games and caught COVID. He was not the same player. He was also dealing with an injury. I think the guard position is going to be absolutely the biggest deficiency for the Giants. In fact, I think they're going to draft one next year because Will Hernandez is entering a contract year. So you hope he comes and balls out because you saw regression these last 2 years after a solid rookie campaign. And Shane Lemieux is a 5th-round flyer. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, I get it. We're getting Nate Solder back. I think we're fine at the tackle position. The interior offensive lineman position is where the deficiency might be. But I do have a little bit of confidence because of who we brought in. Rob Sale, former Raging Cajuns assistant coach. We did sign 2 undrafted free agents in Brett Heggie and Jake. Brett Heggie was Kyle Trask's center. So we do know, and our current starting center was an undrafted free agent in Nick Gates. So I think the right guard position is where I'm most concerned.
Yeah, see, a follow-up to that, Tom. See, I think that's a shame because that's going to hurt Daniel Jones's growth with that because you're going to have guys coming through and pushing him, being uncomfortable, moving around and things to that effect. I think it's going to hurt him because I think this is the year for Daniel Jones to really put it together to actually have a good year to solidify his spot with the Giants. If not, like you said, they might move on next year or maybe draft the quarterback. But, yeah, I just hope it works out because I like Daniel Jones, and I've said this to Brian before. I like Daniel Jones, the pick. I didn't like it where they took him. If they took him a little further down, he would have been there, but I didn't like him taking him at as high as they did.
No, I mean, I didn't either. I don't think he would have been there at 17, though. I think that's why they did it. I think Washington had their eyes set on him, and we look back at it now and how that turned out for them. They're still in search of a quarterback 2 to 3 years later. I'm just glad that's not us, right? I mean, I'd rather have Jones than what we could have potentially had.
Yep.
I know it's revisionist history. I understand that we have full 2020 vision of what actually happened. However, it's been documented that they love Justin Herbert. They had a half chubby for Justin Herbert. There was some talk that they might even actually make that move. Had they again, who woulda, coulda, shoulda, had they not gone quarterback and done anything else, which timing is what it was. Conceivably, when they at 4, they might have taken Justin Herbert, who's lit the league on fire. Who knows if he would do that in New York? It's all looking back, the what if scenario. And I'm in agreement with Mike. I have no problem with him taking Daniel Jones. I'm more of the belief that he'd have been there at 17. But again, if he's your guy, like nobody should question you for going after your guy because enough people get it wrong. Yeah. Waiting. Again, look at the Eagles. They can't even do a fist bump because they traded back 2 spots and get their guy. And look at the Giants now, where you have to wonder, did they have a conversation with the Cowboys either? Or should the Cowboys have said, hey, we're going to move – the Eagles are going to move up.
What I heard was Howie Roseman also reached out to Gettleman about potentially moving up. So I don't think Gettleman was shocked by the move up. I just didn't think he knew that Roseman would do it right in front of them at number 10, right? Because that's what was crazy. I'm not bashing the Daniel Jones pick either, but look. And then also I think that's when they went Tony to give another weapon for Jones, and that's a good point too, because you look at all the good quarterbacks in the league, right? Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs entering his 3rd year. Daniel Jones gets Kenny Golladay, right? All these good quarterbacks have a good wide receiver that's going to elevate them to that next level. I mean, Josh Allen has Stephon Diggs. Patrick Mahomes has Tyreek Hill. Aaron Rodgers has Devontae Adams. Kirk Cousins has Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. I mean, these quarterbacks that are good in the NFL have guys. I don't know if you wanted to give me my draft grade now. I think I might have forgot. A lot of Giants fans are giving us an A. I'm not. I'm going to go a step below that. I'm giving us an A- only because of the offensive line misfire there. I think that was the one thing I would have addressed if I was Dave Gettleman. other than that, if you take that away, it's hard not to give them an A because they filled in. They got 2 edge rushers. They got 2 corners. They got a backup running back, which is what they needed. Maybe not the biggest fan of the pick, but they got that position. And then they went out and then they got another playmaker for Daniel Jones. They did everything they needed to do in this draft to be competitive in the NFC East in 2021. And also, too, the offensive line has a new coach. There's going to be continuity, too. That's another thing that I just wanted to bring up. The positions keep changing. Since 2012, after we won the second championship with that line, there was a different line out there every year. There was at least 2 players changing on that line. I mean, people don't remember who guys like Jim Cordell were or J.D. Walton, Bobby Hart. There's a reason why. The line kept changing. Last year we had Thomas, Hernandez, Gates, Zeitler, and it was switching between Pert and Fleming. Now we're going to have probably Thomas, Lemieux, Gates, Hernandez, and Pert. Maybe Nate Solder starts over Pert. I'm not sure. But the only question with the line is which guard position will Hernandez and Lemieux start at? And also, keep this in mind. The free agent market still has guards out there where you could get a bargain, where these guys are going to sign with you for less money than what they're worth. Now, I'm not saying we're going to sign like a Trey Turner type of guy. I don't think we are. I think we're sticking with what we got. But the offensive line might be Giants believe in it a lot more than the fans do, us content create. I mean, they believe in the offensive line a lot more than the general public does. So kudos to them for that, I guess.
But I don't think if you look, I'm looking at the back at the draft right now. I mean, other than Darisaw at 20, which I don't think they were going to do. They really weren't in position after the trade with Miami, especially to go take somebody. I mean, again, unless you thought that Cosme was the pick at 50, which I think Ojulari was a hell of a value there. I mean, I'm a big believer in taking the best player available at something that you need. Like, don't stretch just to get a position. It wasn't that they didn't need Azeez Ojulari. It was it was a need coming in. So, I mean, I was fine with that. I don't have a lot to complain about, and I give them an A for sure, especially when you count the fact that you're adding the one next year. And I think you have to count that because they ended up with another receiver. If you thought they needed one, I was not in that camp, but it's fine. I'm wrong all the time, so it wouldn't be the first time. I think they did a phenomenal job. And when they come in next year and the Bears were like, a 5-win team because they stink and they have a high pick, they can do whatever they want. They pretty much they can package their ones. They can do. I mean, they're in a wonderful position. And frankly, I'd probably rather have Tony and a 1 next year than Devontae Smith.
Oh, absolutely.
All things considered, I mean, I don't have a lot to criticize. I would like to because they're in my division. Not that I hate them, but I don't have a lot to criticize. I think they did a very good job. I call it what it is. And Gettleman, who's been, much maligned with some of his recent drafts, I thought did a very good job. I got to give him credit.
Yeah, I mean, our picks are high value next year too.
Yeah.
We have 10 picks now, thanks to the Eagles. But look, I mean, again, we're not going to be spending much next offseason. That's why Gettleman stocked up on draft picks, right? So it was really smart for him to do that. In that regard, I give them an A. But the reason I guess I'm more between an A and an A minus, but I'm grading them down to an A minus because of that offensive line. Because Mike brought it up before. That's the one issue with this team. That's the deficiency. That, and then I think Daniel Jones is number 2 after that. Those are the big 2 question marks heading into next year. You have the playmakers now. So those 2 units better perform better.
So, Tom, we got to thank you for coming on and talking Giants with us tonight. It's always a pleasure. The knowledge and the guys that we bring on here are just so knowledgeable in what they talk about. We appreciate coming on and talking Giants with us tonight.
No problem, Mike and Brian. Thank you guys so much for having me. Really do appreciate you guys. You guys do a lot of good work here on the Sports Box covering both the first 2 days of the draft. You guys put a lot of effort and time into your content. So make sure to go check out the Sports Box. if you're watching right now. Really do appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, I think we would have did the third and fourth day, but I think we would have had to find a lot of 5-hour energy to probably stay up for that.
Just at that point, then I don't think anybody was going to watch it.
We'd have been like, and we would have been.
It was actually day two was hard. Day two was hard enough.
I know.
Like, everything starts going quickly, and it's like you can't keep. And we were about 5 picks ahead, so then we're like, where are we actually at right now?
Yeah.
It's just like, it is what it is. Real quick, just because I'm going to ask you. So we have our Stanley Cup playoffs preview on Thursday, and I am going to go in on our mutual hockey team to discuss where they are at the end of the season. Just right now. Every time my Twitter alert comes off for Larry Brooks, my heart's right here because I don't know what the hell they're going to do. I have no idea what they're going to do. I'm very eggshelly.
Yeah, I don't even pay attention to Twitter. Honestly,
I'm constantly in the reporting of news that we have. I get the alerts to the right people, but every time I see Larry Brooks, I'm like, oh god. And I got to read it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we just got to hope for the best, So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they do this offseason, see if they bring anybody in. But
Mike's a Flyers fan. They're actually significantly worse off than we are.
Definitely going to be an active offseason. I'm interested to see what they do. But yeah, it's been a train wreck. So we'll see what happens.
So, all right, like I said, make sure you check out Review and Preview. They do a real nice work there. A lot of different topics they cover, a lot of different nights. Start bouncing around. A lot of our friends do wonderful work. Make sure you're following their page. Give them a like, share, the whole nine.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Soon.
And that was the draft preview. Or draft review. So we got down to the Giants. Got done the Browns. I am working on some other names for next week. I know Kevin Fitzmaurice will be on for the Pats at some point. Joe Ricks will be on for the Jets at some point. And we're going to go through some of the – I mean, the draft was a lot of fun. And now going back and seeing specifically, okay, what the hell actually happened? Now that we're like a couple of weeks detached from it, our emotions have kind of calmed down. So now we can actually objectively – make a determination. Mm-hmm. Unlike you, who were very, very happy. I mean, you were 6 to midnight when they took Kyle Trask. So
God!
I'm sure at some point we'll delve into that for 10 minutes.
I'm telling you, I've never ever thought I could be so excited for a second round. I mean, I really think this kid's going to be good. I really do. And by the reports that I saw on Twitter and even some papers down there that I look online, it just everybody's over the moon that they got him even in the second round. Some people question it, but why would you question it? I mean, there's the guy when Tom Brady's ready to leave, whenever that is, this guy's going to sit behind the best in the business and learn how to play. So.
We will have Bucks tonight. I'll give you the floor. You do whatever you can. You can fillet yourself, whatever. Anyway,
by the way, I have the jersey is ordered. The trash jersey.
That's fine. That's fine.
He's wearing number 2. Yep.
Because he's going to be number 2 his whole career. Because Tom Brady.
he better not be.
Anyway, so. All right, guys, thank you for watching the show. Mike, floor is yours.
Oh, so hey, thank you. Another great edition of Highly Opinionated. Do you want to give it sponsors or
Showcase Sports, Dave Berman, they're all over our you see the logo in the top right. Dave's face is somewhere on our page, caricature that he does. So phenomenal stuff. And keep watching the shows all week. We have shows most nights covering a variety of topics. Hoops is on tomorrow night, Gaming Drive's on tomorrow night. So a lot of good stuff every day of the week.
Yep. I believe next week we will be back with golf. So at some point. So keep an eye out for that. We'll leading into
funny, the Flyers too with golf.
Yes, Flyers actually are making tee times right now. So
dude, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Yeah. Talk to Velarde. They're probably going over to Trump in droves right now. So, but yeah, we will be back next week. The championship is on next week, I believe. So we will cover that. And so that's another edition of Highly Opinionated. We want to thank you for watching. As always, keep an eye out every Tuesday, 8:30. We will be here. We got some guests coming on in the future, so it's gonna be a good time. So for myself, Hamilton, Mike Galetta, and Brian, the Ranger Retard, thank you. See you, folks. Have a good night.
Peace.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Highly Opinionated Show on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. on Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.